GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand, presents Galata Plus at the Berlin Film Festival 2024.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Hello and welcome to Galata Plus at the Berlinale. In this video review episode, we are going to be talking about Raam Reddy's much awaited follow-up to Tithi, which was released in 2015 if you remember. And this film is called The Fable and it had its world premiere at the Berlin Film Festival. Now The Fable, which is this movie's name, it opens with a black screen and we hear the sounds of someone that appears to be brushing their teeth. Is that really it? As the frame dissolves from black to the actual visual, we see that yes, someone is brushing their teeth. That someone is Dev, and that's played by Manoj Bajpayee. Now filmmakers look for all kinds of hooks and opening images to draw us into their film. And here we are seeing somebody brushing their teeth. I mean, how can there be anything more mundane than this? We go to the movie for flights of fancy, and here there is a man doing what we all do every day in our own lives. Where is the thrill in this? But wait, after this act of brushing his teeth, this man dabs a bit of ointment on both his shoulders. Instantly, some intrigue is created. Is he hurt? What is this? While we ponder about the answer, we get a single take, a long take, a shot that follows Dev from where he is through his house and to an outhouse, and along the way we meet key characters that are going to play a part in the movie. Now, at the end of this, I'm not going to describe this because it's a big spoiler, but we get a bridge that leads to the middle of nowhere. This is the Himalayas we're talking about. So there is a valley below and beyond there are the gorgeous Himalayas. So you see this person walking to the end of the bridge, and that's all I'm going to tell you. But what has essentially happened is what started with an act of brushing the teeth, something so mundane, has become something utterly magical, and that is the trajectory of the film's narrative as well. The film begins to soar, and when I say soar, I mean it quite literally. And when I say film, I mean film, as in film stock. The Fable has been shot on 16mm stock, and this lends the film a wonderful texture, a grainy quality that is instantly recognizable for those of us who grew up on Doordarshan. There is that grain specked quality, right, which we saw from telefilms of the era. Now, this fits the movie in two ways, because one, it is set in 1989. The story is set in 1989. So the film actually looks like it has been made in that time period, right? Because of the film. But another thing is, film is a very temporary, transient medium, and we are talking about something that is going to be temporary, transient, and that is the way of life that Dev and his kind leads. So there is another reason this kind of makes sense, at least in my head, this made sense that this is why Raam Reddy chose to make the film on film. And what is Dev's kind? Dev, that is the Manoj Bajpayee character. He lives with his wife, played by Priyanka Bose, and their daughter and their son. They converse largely in English. For entertainment, they watch Charade, the Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn film. So they are Indians, yet not Indians. And we realize soon that the estate that they are on, this wonderful estate in the Himalayas, and it's filled with apple orchards and other kinds of trees. Now, that is a gift to Dev's grandfather from somebody in the British era, from the Raj. So it is basically a kind of a colonial thing we're seeing, and that way of life is going to vanish soon. Sunil Bodkar is a cinematographer, and he fills the film with an understated kind of beauty because Raam Reddy is not a flashy filmmaker. And one way to read The Fable is that land does not belong to any one person, it belongs to everyone. That is, nature belongs to everyone. Dev's Raj era entitlement will soon be a thing of a past. But this is not to say that Dev is a bad person. In fact, he's a good man. He gets along well with his workers, and look at his name, Dev. I mean, he's in the Himalayas and he's called Dev. He's literally a god there. The people that work with him, like, they look at him like a god, like somebody who's like looking after them, looking over them. But when fires start appearing in these orchards and certain trees start getting burned, it seems to be a direct message to Dev. Somebody seems to be sending a message to Dev that you are not a special person. Dev, in other words, will be expelled from this heaven. And if you want to read Christian allegory into this, because of the apple orchards, Dev will be expelled from this Eden. The fable plays out like a metaphysical mystery. Who's setting off these fires? That is the obvious question, and the answer is sought out by an increasingly desperate Dev. Manoj Bajpayee is beyond brilliant. He gives us a calm, meditative performance that is the opposite of the trajectory of that opening shot we talked about. There, we went from the mundane to the magical. Here, he takes us from the magical to the mundane. He's a special person, and then he gets stripped of those special powers. Dave begins to suspect employees that he trusted implicitly, and his serene demeanor at the beginning slowly gives way to pettiness, to paranoia, and we slowly see that Dave is just a mere human being after all. Everything was beautiful in these mountains, but the minds of men can get corrupted by the slightest of things. Now, these words describe Dave, and they're spoken by the film's narrator. I won't tell you who this is right now. The use of voiceover gives the fable a once upon a time quality, and like in Tithi, everything is interconnected. In fact, if you want to take this back to Tithi, you might remember that the last image of that film was an image of fire, and this film is all about fires being set off. So the films can be seen as kind of companion pieces as well. It may take a few viewings to get all the connections, but here are a few that I caught, or at least that I read into the film. Now, Dev and his family indulge in stargazing. A mother in a distant village talks about people from a distant star who got trapped on Earth, and we hear the lines from the title song of Kabhi Kabhi, which is "Tu ab se pehle sitaron mein bas rahi thi kahin." That is, you were in the stars somewhere before you came to me. Here is another connection. Sitting around a fire, Dev's wife chants a hymn from Adi Shankara, which is like, "I am true consciousness and bliss, I am Shiva." Whereas nearby, local nomads who resemble the shepherds in Tithi, they do their own chanting around a fire. Based on Tithi and the fable, Ram's theme seems to be the interconnectedness of all things in this world. Death is another constant. If Tithi was woven around death, the fable shows us the death of trees, the death of insects due to pesticide, the death of innocence of Manoj's daughter, Manoj Bajpayee's daughter, and the death of a colonial way of life. This is not a spoiler because the fable is not something you watch because of who done it or what happens at the end. This is a journey through a way of life. Fireflies are a recurring image in the fable, and they not only point to the fires that are set off, but also to the transient nature of things because of their very short life, how transient we all are in the cosmic scheme of things. When Dev walks into a cloud of fireflies, the image is both utterly beautiful and utterly sad. The other great performance in this film comes from Deepak Dobriyal, who plays Dev's manager, very loyal manager. Every emotion flickers large on his face, from rejection to disappointment to confusion about who's setting out these fires, and his very external performance is beautifully a foil. It becomes a foil to Dev's, that is Manoj Bajpayee's, very internalized performance. The two actors come together in a kind of symphony, and they make us forget that this is a film that thankfully exists without a background score. The only songs we hear are the ones that are sung by Dev's wife, and there are vintage songs from the K.L. Sehgal, Pankaj Malik era, the Raj era again, because that's the late 1940s we're talking about, or early 1940s, and that is probably the time the estate came into Dev's ancestors' hands. The one stretch that did not work for me in the fable is the part where the character played by Tilottama Shom, she recites a fable, she narrates a fable, and it starts with the question, what is soul, what is prana? I felt it was too direct an allusion, and the story that follows, the fable that follows, is too closely, it's too neatly, it's too tidily linked to the final stretch of the film. But consider this character's name, the Tilottama Shom character's name. She's named Radha, and she's married to a man named Keshav. Again, the magical nature of their names coexists with the mundane nature of their lives, with 3 children and very little money. Like I said, everything is interconnected, not in the sense of cracking a clue or finding Easter eggs or decoding this film, but in a more diffuse way. Some will see the fable as the story of a way of life, the others will see the fable as the story of life itself. And that's it about the fable, Raam Reddy's film starring Manoj Bajpayee. If you like this video review, do subscribe to Galata Plus, and see you soon at the movies. GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand, presents Galata Plus at the Berlin Film Festival 2024.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.